last Sunday, in Sacred Cup, and for if you don't know what Sacred Cup is, it's when we get together at 9:15 on Sunday mornings and do a reading, and then we have a conversation about that reading. It's a fantastic time to be here if you can get here by 9:15. But at any rate, last Sunday in Sacred Cup, we had this long conversation on the topic of needing external validation or someone else to tell us that we are right or even all right. And it led to the discussion about the idea of an internal locus of control versus an external locus of control. Meaning, do we look outside ourselves for direction and approval, or do we sit in our own counsel with our own inner higher self and determine the quality and the trajectory of our lives? And it takes some spiritual maturity actually to be self determining. But I think it's the higher ground that we all seek. And do we let things outside ourselves determine our inner happiness and satisfaction with life? Or is that an internal job? That's what I want to talk about this morning. So here's a big question for you. Are you ready? Raise your hand if you enjoy roller coasters. Awesome. Okay, so put them down. Now, raise if you didn't raise your hand the first time, raise your hand if you used to like roller coasters but don't like them anymore. Okay, good. Cool. I'm in the second group. Okay. So when I was younger, I loved to ride roller coasters over and over. And whatever the amusement park was, Six Flags, Disney World, whatever, I was seeking out those roller coasters. But in the past 15 years or so, I found them to be less pleasant. And I've been told a little sickening. I've been told that it hasn't to do with my inner ear getting older or something like that. Well, whatever. But here's the follow up question. Raise your hand if you laugh like crazy on a ride like that. Laugh like crazy, okay. How about raise it if you're a screamer? Like terrified, okay. I love those photo things at the end of the ride that reveal your experience on that scariest drop, they take that really fast picture, and so folks like me are just laughing, and some folks are petrified, sorta like this photo, Rebecca. Yeah. Okay, you can leave that up for a second, okay. So somehow, these people are having the exact same experience, but obviously not having the exact same experience. So, my question is who decides whether we laugh or cry on the ride? It all comes down to our thoughts, right? The laughing lady is probably thinking, this is the best fun I've had in a long time. And the crying one is probably thinking, I am going to die. Or if not that extreme, maybe what is about to happen to me, right? So let's explore that idea. Susan and I were talking the other day about the idea that life is like a roller coaster. Everything has its ups and downs, right? Twists and turns. I mean, think about it. Just take relationships. Certainly feel like a roller coaster ride. There are these steep climbs of growing excitement at the beginning of a new friendship or relationship. And then there's these stomach dropping plunges into challenges and sometimes unexpected endings of those relationships. And there are sometimes kind of sharp left turns caused by choices that require us to kind of lean to keep our balance. And then there's these hard right turns too, or sometimes you can even get flipped upside down, just centrifugal force kind of holding you in place. And then just as suddenly and unexpectedly, all the ups and downs stop and you slide into a section of the relationship track that where everything feels smooth and peaceful and kind of that home base part of the ride. But it's not just relationships that feel this way. Careers can have that same roller coaster effect of ups and downs and twists and turns. And you think things are going in a certain direction with your job and you're feeling so good. And then you get a new supervisor that seems clueless. Or a project that is thrilling and it just plays to your strengths and you're so overjoyed, or maybe the company gets sold and you're pulled in a completely new direction. It's a very long ride as a career person. And parenting is certainly a ride too. And if you have multiple children, then the ride is exponentially more exciting, right? I know there are parents in the room right now that are navigating gender transition, adults moving multiple times, children moving away. Then there's multiple grandchildren and great grandchildren, lots of great grandchildren, and health challenges, and even the mourning the loss of a child, and joys and sorrows all mixed in over the years of the ride of parenting, right? And I've just named a few of life's major categories, but really anything that we care about and work at and dream of or aspire to, all of it is like a ride with this track running through all of it. And it can certainly feel random, but what if it's all on purpose? Isn't that how we choose to see things through a spiritual perspective? Life is happening for us. So if life is a roller coaster, how do we use that analogy to become a little wiser on the ride of our lives? My lesson title is It's Up to You, because that's what I think is most true. How you ride the ride of your life is up to you, just like how you ride a roller coaster is up to you. Screaming or laughing, it's an inside job. And if I look at it all from a spiritual perspective, I believe that we got on this ride by our own choice. I personally believe that we chose our ride before we even incarnated. But that's not what this particular lesson is about. When we are young, there are many people on the ride with us who influence how we see the ride itself. We're influenced by them to see certain aspects of the ride of life as fun and desirable, and some things are terrifying and to be avoided. Our families of origin taught us to label every hill and descent as either good or bad, right or wrong, hard or easy. And we were taught what a successful ride looks like and what a failure ride looks like, right? And some of us were strapped in so tightly by limiting belief systems and strong expectations that we could barely breathe when we were first on this ride. And others of us felt like we were dangling without any protection or guidance, just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, so to speak, right? Not a lot of input. And our young lives actually are really hard to compare with each other because there were just so many variables that made our rides feel this way or that way. And some of us got to today absolutely terrified of life, and others arrived here pretty unscathed and confident. And a few of us got here still laughing, right? But none of that matters really, because here we are now as fully grown adults, experienced riders, so to speak. And it's up to us to make the rest of this ride as we like it. And we get to remember that we have survived 100% of all the twists and turns of our ride thus far. So, there are some perspectives that I will offer you today that may help you. First, accept that your roller coaster ride is personally designed and it is yours. As the track of your life runs through them, every twist and turn is your own co creation. And therefore, it is up to you to find the best choices to make, the most helpful attitude to adopt, and the perspective that is most empowering to you. Notice I said co creation. I fully understand that we do not get to choose every detail of our ride, but we do partner with Universal Spirit in that choosing. Whether that is before we're incarnated or along the way, we're choosing. And the quicker we can realize that we're in charge of our lives, the sooner we can partner with Spirit to shift things into a more comfortable, meaningful, and joyful ride. Therefore, I recommend putting on what I'm going to call a spiritual seatbelt. So when you are on a ride at an amusement park, there's that certain level of confidence that comes when you've clicked your seatbelt into place, right? I also like it when the little acne teenager comes over and gives a little tug to make sure my safety belt is in place. I like it even better when they lower that bar over, like I have extra protection, but I digress. But wearing a spiritual seatbelt helps me remember that my soul is is fully in agreement with everything that's happening on my ride, and that I'm not going to fall out of my seat, even if things go upside down. God is present with me in all of it. And wearing my spirituality seatbelt ensures that I can laugh uproariously instead of screaming in terror. Because deep within, I know that I'm always safe. My life is unfolding as it should, all the way to the end. Just take a deep breath and absorb that. You are safe all the way to the end. In other words, when I'm wearing my spiritual seatbelt, I get to decide within myself how I choose to feel about the ride that I'm on. My locus of control is within my own mind. I get to decide whether I'm having a good experience or not. I get to decide if I'm in love or if I'm happy or if I'm satisfied or joyful. I get to decide when something is no longer good for me and change direction. With spirit wrapped around me and living through me, I can kind of feel the wind in my face and look toward it without worrying what anyone else on the ride with me is experiencing. My spiritual seatbelt allows me to feel the physical, the emotional, mental, and spiritual experience and realize that I can call it terror and excitement. They feel quite a lot the same. And knowing that I'm overall safe, I can stay buckled in and relax into the experience no matter how unexpected or twisty. So, my spiritual seatbelt is what tells me that I am where I'm supposed to be, not an external authority figure, not a priest, not the government, not my family, not my friends, not anyone else. It's up to me to see that I am in the right and perfect seat always. Other people's rides are up to them, correct? And therefore, I've learned that I should make my riding companion selections very carefully because no one is responsible for my ride except for me. And I cannot be responsible for anyone else's ride, no matter how much I want to be. However, I know from experience that if I'm the kind of person who laughs on the roller coaster, but I'm surrounded by people who are certain that they were all going to die and making sounds around me that reflect that belief, my ride is not as fun. Everyone is in charge of their individual experience, but I get to decide who sits beside me and who does not. That's up to me. My invitation is to choose witnesses who can listen as you squeal with excitement, as you cry from despair, then allow you to turn around and speak of hope and newness without attachment to one version of you or another. Choose ride companions who let you grow and change and try new things, yet also sit beside you when you're tired and you need to rest before surging ahead again. Let those who sit closest to you, especially the ones right beside you, make sure that you share your overall perspective on life and share a similar level of trepidation mixed with excitement. That fear and love twist has to be pretty much a match. And here's the most important part: always remember and know that you are always headed back toward periods of home where there's peace and smooth sailing. You know how sometimes right in the middle of the ride, or maybe at the end of the ride, where your hair's a mess and your face is all scrunched up and a little windburn, and the ride slows down and you begin to coast a little bit? There's that feeling of relief, right? And you can catch your breath. It's then that you get another window to choose again. You can rest for a little while, get your breath, but don't withdraw and cave into your inner fears or self doubts. The real ride where you learn the most and grow the most is not there on the even tracks. The real ride keeps going and challenges you to expand your current sense of self more and more. And today, we celebrate Pride Sunday. And I think this lesson lends itself perfectly to supporting that theme too. So, whether you're riding the life roller coaster with that includes an identity on the LGBTQ rainbow spectrum or not, each of us has a lifelong relationship with our own identity as a unique human being. And each one of us gets to figure out how to embrace our own identity and the elements of it. Take a look at all the ways that you externally and internally self identify. Each of us has so many cultural identities to embrace: our racial and ethnical identity, our gender identity, our socioeconomic identity, national identity, political identity, sexual identity. They're just a few of the layers to who we are. And some of us may even be on the autism spectrum or have other disabilities, but we all have talents and preferences and affinities to different ways of living, and they make us who we are. And part of our individual roller coaster ride is about figuring out who we really are and then learning how to accept who we have shown up to be in this lifetime, and then learning to have pride and celebrate who we have found ourselves to truly be. All of us should have a relationship with the idea of pride, whether we see ourselves represented in all the rainbows around us or not. And I love that here in our community today, many of us are wearing rainbows to acknowledge that reality. And the people behind me are banging on something. They're just joining into the celebration. But these rainbows of diversity belong to all of us and to everyone else, whether they can see it or not. Here's the thing: my being gay is not something that anyone else gets to vote on. It isn't something that I need anyone else to agree is a good thing. It's up to me. I get to decide if this part of my roller coaster ride is terrifying or joyful. And I can tell you that it's been a lifelong journey for me. And I have certainly witnessed people around me on the rainbow spectrum of expression. And some of them are confident and enjoying their personal identity, and they stand next to others who are deeply ashamed and struggling with that part of their identity. Some need to wave a rainbow flag defiantly and wave it joyfully, and some decide they don't need to wave anything at all. They just are simply being. And again, we're on a similar ride, but it's up to us to live it on our own terms. And I have found that it's up to me to surround myself with people who celebrate me just as I am. It's up to me to disempower anyone in my life who's not cheering me on in my freest expression. And that goes for any of the various ways that I identify. I don't need you to agree with me. I need you to be a loving witness of me. And that is our role as we witness everyone around us on their own roller coaster ride. So, how do we stay in our best selves as we witness each other on roller coasters? I think the most important part is to suspend judgment and to practice compassion. Those that we witness through life are going to get bumped and bruised sometimes. Some actually need to throw up too as they navigate how things play out in their choices, their causes, and effects. Our calling is simply to be patient as they figure it all out, keeping our impatience from growing to the point that we want to yank things out of their hands and do it ourselves. They may ride around terrified for a long time before they realize that life is working out for them. And around here, we can remind each other, hey, you've got that spiritual seatbelt on. You're going to be just fine. But if we're witnessing someone who's not on a spiritual path, you can let them know how helpful it is to have a spiritual support on the roller coaster of life. There are two sides to figuring out the quirky parts of life: figuring it out for ourselves without looking around at others for approval, and allowing everyone else to figure out their quirky stuff for themselves too, without needing to judge or appreciate another person's quirks. We can share wisdom, but we can't pretend we have a clue how anyone else should do anything. We can share band-aids, but we cannot pretend that we can fix someone else's wounds. We can hold their hand while they throw up, but we can't help them not feel nauseous. We can share our spiritual techniques, but we cannot pretend to know how their soul will best connect with their own source. We are just pointing them in the direction where we found light, and hopefully listening to others who are riding the roller coaster of life joyfully. If we all individually walk toward our own source of light, we will find our personal connection with source, and it may look completely different than anyone else. It's up to us to buckle up for our own ride and decide to be happy and peaceful throughout the journey, and to lovingly witness others on theirs without insisting we have answers for anyone other than ourselves. The best news is, and I've said this in Sacred Cup, we're all still in our magic suits. somewhere on the roller coaster of life, feeling similar climbs and similar rapid descents, twists, and turns. My prayer is that you pull within yourself and know that life is good, that you are safe because everything around you is in divine order. And keep laughing your head off, and maybe, just maybe, stop holding on so tightly and you can throw your hands up in joy. The bottom line is keep your spiritual seatbelt on and trust the ride of life. You have everything you need for every period of climbing to new heights, every plunge and unexpected change, every turn into a challenge, and every surprise joy that comes into your experience. Trust the ride, trust spirit, trust yourself. It's up to you. Will you pray with me? As I take a deep breath, I feel that spiritual seatbelt around me, and I am so grateful. I'm grateful to be in a room of people wearing rainbows and standing in solidarity that we are all just good. All is well. Life is unfolding as it should. And I know that for myself, and I know that for each other person. I know that we can feel the track of our lives underneath us, and that whatever direction it turns, that we will continue to ride. We can trust spirit, we can trust life. I know that for myself, and I know that for each person in this room. And I know that as I learn to love myself, I learn to love others even better. And that is the most beautiful thing of all. I let it go and I let it be. And so it is.